Hi, my name is Dr. Brad Fackrell from Straight Chiropractic. Thank you for watching today. Our workshop today is entitled Pediatric Nutrition. As a parent, my wife and I often have struggled on creating good, healthy food for our children that we feel good about, that we know is actually supporting proper brain function and proper development in their growth in every way. And so today's workshop is designed to answer some of those questions about how to feed our kids healthier. So enjoy this workshop.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I see a lot of new faces, so that's awesome that you guys are able to come in. So the reason why we're all here, right? We're going to talk about some things that we can do to help our kids eat better, right? Because, we all think about as we get older, we need to think about eating a little bit better now once we're getting older because, those pounds, they start going on a little bit easier than they used to, right? Well, it really starts with creating good habits when we're younger because it really makes all the difference in the world. Just for example, they do studies all the time with like rats and the animals and stuff like that, and they all find that the ones that have a better diet, they learn better, they learn faster, they remember more, they're more active, they're healthier in the long run, and it's just kind of a no-brainer, right? That we're not going to be any different, and that's really what we're here and what we're going to talk about tonight. So first, we have to really think about what is nutrition as a whole, right? When we talk about how our spine is affected by the different things in our life, we talk about physical stresses and emotional stresses, and chemical stresses are one of those also. And diet is a huge part of that. And because if we're constantly putting toxic foods into our bodies, right, then we're never going to reach a sense of purity and sufficiency in our lives. We're always going to be toxic and deficient in everything, in all of the basic building blocks that our body needs. So there are a few different ways to look at nutrition. Like do we have any nutritionists or dietitians in the house tonight? Okay, good. That's great, because I don't want to get in an argument with somebody. So what a typical nutritionist or a dietitian is going to look at, they're going to look at health or nutrition from a symptom standpoint, right? So they're going to take someone who, say they have an upset stomach, or, they're having problems going to the bathroom, or they have diabetes and those kind of things. And they're going to say, well, how can we change your diet so that you don't have those symptoms anymore? And the first thing I want to impress upon you is that it's much bigger than that. What we're really going to be talking about tonight is how this diet and nutrition is really a lifestyle to make sure that, we're providing our body everything that it needs so that it can really work on its own and it can create health for us. So who determines what's really healthy? Well, I assume everybody's probably remembers back in health class, I probably saw the food pyramid and all that stuff. If you are familiar with looking at labels, right, they all have what the percentage of daily values, or the RDAs. And unfortunately, all those numbers are all determined based on research, which is based on symptoms. So all those RDAs, which says, okay, you got 100% of your vitamin C today, well, that's basically you got just enough vitamin C today to make sure that you don't get scurvy, right? Or you got just enough vitamin D today to make sure that your bones aren't so soft that you're bowing and you have rickets. So I want you to kind of transition your thinking from that just getting by standpoint to really a point of flourishing as an organism and really being able to express all of the potential that your body has. So, how did our ancestors eat? Okay, you see a picture of a caveman, right? Well, we're not a whole lot different from them. I mean, granted, they lived about 20,000 years ago, right? But the only real difference is that we cut our hair and we wear clothes. You laugh, but it's really the truth. Our genes really haven't changed over the last 20,000 years. If you think about it, that's really only about 1,000 generations of humans since the caveman times. And if you think about the bacteria in your gut, okay, they have a new generation every 30 minutes. Okay, if a virus comes in contact with another virus in the air, right, if they hook up, boom, they have a new genome because they can swap genes right there. They're literally evolving every second of every day. We evolve over millions of years. So in the short existence over the last 20,000, our genes really haven't changed. In fact, only about 1/100% of all diagnosable medical conditions are classified as genetic disorders. So a lot of things that we see today are lifestyle problems. In fact, our diet, right, just in the last 100 years has changed more than it has over the last 20,000, right? This guy, they didn't have Chef Boyardee then, right? They didn't have Pizza Hut then. They didn't have McDonald's then. If you were going to eat, what did this guy do to find food? He either killed it, right, or he gathered it, right? So they eat a lot of nuts, a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, and a lot of meat. There's nothing wrong with meat as long as you're eating the right meat. So what do we have now? We have a bunch of cavemen who eat at McDonald's, right? We have a bunch of cavemen who go out and sit down and are served their dinner. So the way we find food now is totally different, right? It used to be, if you're going out and hunting, right, you're expending calories trying to hunt your steak, right? Not having it brought to you on a porcelain plate. So we kind of have to take a step back and start thinking like cavemen. So if you look at the illustrious food pyramid that we're all probably very familiar with. Kids, have you seen this in health class before? You guys have probably seen this before, right? Well, did the cavemen have bread? No. In fact, they didn't have wheat. In fact, we didn't even start farming until about 10,000 years ago. So of that 20,000, only half the time we've even been used to eating stuff that we actually grow, right? Did we have milk? No, the domestication of animals was, a couple of thousand years after we even started farming. Did we have, Twix bars and Snickers bars and all the delicious stuff that tastes great but is terrible for you? They didn't have any of that. So if you want to take what we have now and really get back to basics to what the cavemen ate, you'd have to eliminate breads and all the grains. You'd have to eliminate milk and dairy and yogurt and cheese and all of that stuff. And you'd have to really eliminate all the sweets. So what does that leave us with? Vegetables and fruits and meats. So who here was told when they were younger they should probably eat more vegetables? Yeah, everybody, right? But do we? No. So some of the things we're going to talk about may honestly seem like no-brainer type of concepts, but it's really the kind of things that we have to do in order to be healthy. See, because the cavemen, they really ate based on what they needed, right? Not what was available, right? If I go and I have a really tough workout, and I leave there, I'm like, man, I am dead tired. The last thing I want to go do is cook. And I did a great job at the gym today, so I think I'm just going to have a cheeseburger. Yeah, what's the point, right? So we kind of, like I said, get back to basics and provide for what our innate really needs. And it's really, like I mentioned earlier, a sense of sufficiency and purity. Because it really, like I said, has nothing to do with the RDAs. It has nothing to do with avoiding sickness. It's about creating health. And unfortunately today, the level of toxicity is really everywhere. It's almost inescapable. Unless you're eating raw, unless you're eating a lot of vegetables, eating the right kind of meats, that grass-fed meats, the free-range chicken kind of things, it's really hard to avoid. For example, Dr. Damien and I, we went to chiropractic school in Atlanta. And while we were there, I remember something came out in the mail that was talking about the drinking water, the tap water in Atlanta. And, you know, the number one contaminant in tap water is always E. coli. But the number two in Atlanta was estrogen, because of all of the birth control that everyone was taking, and then you urinate it out and it gets in the water system. And once it's in the water system, you can't pull that stuff out. It's made to be there. So it literally goes as basic as the water we drink, the air we breathe, and really we need to create an environment for our bodies that is less toxic and more pure. So I know you guys are already thinking, well, I can't even drink the tap water, then what am I going to drink? The first recommendation I would have is buy a reverse osmosis unit. They're not that expensive. They're typically like under $200, but you know, the value that you're getting and the quality of water that you're getting is unbelievable compared to tap water. Like actually, my reverse osmosis unit that I use, man, the first canister is almost completely brown because of all the dirt and rust and stuff in the water here. So, just food for thought. If if that's not an option, bottled water is kind of the lesser of the next couple of evils. But even then, it comes in a plastic bottle, right? So you're getting toxins from a plastic bottle. Next thing, you could at least filter your tap water, and then of course, you could drink the regular tap water. But certainly, if we're going to move towards that stage of purity, that's one of the first steps we have to take, right? Our body's 70% water. We got to give ourselves good water. So like I said, yeah, you can't really find healthy on a food label. If you look at this, if you're looking at something that has a food label on it, chances are right off the bat it's not good for you. Yeah, because it's processed, right? It's not natural. As anything that has a food label on it has come from a factory, okay? It's just about the same thing as the car that you all got here in, right? Man made it. So nothing that man made is going to make your body function any better than what God made, right? So next, if you guys kind of grab your sheets, we're going to kind of jump all over the place, but there's some of the items on the ingredients list. Whenever you look at a food label, right, you're going to have all this information as far as like protein and carbs and all that stuff goes. But underneath is where you're going to have the ingredients list. This is really the proof in the pudding as to how quality and how fresh and how sustainable your food really is. And the first thing that you may see is MSG. This is, as you can see, this is a label from Cheez-Its, okay? Who can reach into a box of Cheez-Its and eat 5 Cheez-Its? Yeah, like nobody. And that's because of the MSG. MSG is a flavor enhancer. It itself is tasteless. But let me tell you, it can make cardboard taste good. Like, you can put this stuff on cardboard and take a bite. It's like, man, that's some good cardboard. Give me another bite of that cardboard. And it's also one of the number one problems of kids gaining weight, and really everyone gaining weight, because it's in so many foods. What it does is it excites the part of your brain that is the pleasure center in your brain. So it says, hey, that cardboard is amazing, and you should probably eat more of it. And I'm sorry, it is funny. That cardboard tastes good, and it tells another part of your brain, hey, you're not full yet. So keep eating that cardboard, and as long as that stuff is present, you're just going to keep eating until you literally start feeling sick. And unfortunately, if it goes in, it's got to go somewhere, and a lot of it's going to your fat stores. The next, high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is in almost everything that kids eat. Frosted Flakes, right? Anything, granola bars, fruit roll-ups, all that stuff all has high fructose corn syrup in it. Even some things that you wouldn't think, like bread, a lot of the breads that you get, that all has high fructose corn syrup in it. So you actually have to be very, very conscious when you're looking at these ingredients lists. For example, they're actually working on changing the name of high fructose corn syrup right now because there's such a negative connotation surrounding the idea of high fructose corn syrup. So the industry wants to change it. They're petitioning the FDA to call it corn sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup. So there's an entire marketing aspect of this that they're trying to work to make it more acceptable to the public because people are figuring out that it's terrible for you. And the thing about sugar is that sugar, like one sugar isn't the same as another sugar. Fructose, for example, your body likes to convert to fat. It's more energetically favorable in the way the enzymes work in your body to turn it into fat than it is to actually burn it as fuel. So every time you're eating that, that corn syrup and all that stuff, chances are it's turning into fat more than it is being used as energy. A great alternative to this is using sweeteners like stevia. If you're going to cook something, or do baking and things like that, instead of using normal table sugar, which normal table sugar is half fructose, right? Use stevia. It's a more natural sweetener, and it doesn't cause the insulin spikes that fructose and table sugar does. So pop. I drank a lot of pop growing up. My parents had no clue, unfortunately. And the thing about pop is, especially Coke, they use Coke to degrease engines. Okay? Has anybody had a corroded battery terminal on their car? What'd you clean it with? The closest can of Coke you could get your hands on, right? So all the acid that's in pop and soda, it literally causes a change in your blood pH. And pH of your blood it just sounds sirens in your brain. And really puts your body into a survival mode to where it's going to do anything it can to neutralize the blood pH. And what does it do? It pulls the calcium and the magnesium out of your bones and out of your muscles to the point where it can cause osteoporosis, osteopenia, especially in people who's drank this stuff over the long term. So we want to avoid that stuff, especially early, especially in young girls, right? Because women are more prone to osteoporosis. A lot of people who have a very acid diet, drink a lot of pop, are more prone to kidney stones. If you drink diet pop, that's where you get into the aspartame and sucralose that are on your sheets. Those artificial sweeteners, man, they will absolutely kill you. Aspartame actually degrades to a couple of amino acids, which one of them a lot of people are intolerant to. They're actually allergic to. And it degrades to methanol, which is racing fuel. So, if you want to go and drink a can of racing fuel, keep drinking your Diet Coke. And the sucralose. Sucralose, they're Splenda, their catchphrase, right, is made from sugar. So it tastes like sugar. Well, it's about as much sugar as it is really, as much gasoline is crude oil. Because what they do is they take and chlorinate it. The same chlorine that's in your tap water, yeah, they're putting on those sugars so that it tastes sweeter than regular sugar. And the idea behind that is so that your body doesn't absorb it, right? So that you don't get the calories from it. Unfortunately, what they found is that just because it's sweet, it stimulates the the insulin response. So your pancreas is still excreting insulin, even when you're drinking the sucralose and the aspartame. So you're not getting any calories from it, but your pancreas is still working overtime, just like you were eating regular sugar. Juice boxes. Probably you guys saw the green sheets. Just 2 tablespoons of sugar will cause your white blood cells to decrease in function by 50%. And there are about 6 tablespoons in one juice box. And you know how big these things are, right? They're just tiny. How big is the one that's over there on the table? Like, it's smaller than your wallet. So that's a big source for sugar for kids nowadays. Gluten. A lot of people have no clue, but they're sensitive to gluten. It causes a lot of inflammation in the gut, and because 80% of your immune system is in your gut, it causes a lot of inflammation in the rest of your body. So best way to find out if you are allergic to gluten is just to get off it for about 6 weeks. And I mean, gluten is another one of those things, like, it's in everything. If it has wheat, if it has oats, if it has barley, if it says whole grain on it, it has gluten in it. So it's one of those things that's tough to eliminate. But again, if we get back to what the cavemen ate, right? vegetables, fruits, and meats, right? There's no wheat in any of that stuff, right? There's no gluten in any of those things. So that's one of those things with eliminating gluten that can really help your overall health. A lot of people, I have two friends that I went to school with who they decided to go gluten-free, and they're like, well, I just want to try it. You know, I'm going to be a chiropractor, I at least have to try it. And they lost so much weight just in the first month of being gluten-free. I think he lost 20 pounds and she lost 35 just from going gluten-free, that they're like, we just got to stick with this. You know, we're getting healthier. We're losing all this weight that we've been putting on over all this time. And they just decided to stick with it. Peanut butter and jelly. Man, I lived on peanut butter for all my life. I was one of those kids who I would go to I'm still one of those kids who goes to the peanut butter jar with a spoon, okay? I don't need anything to put it on. I can just spoon it. Unfortunately, it's terrible for you from a couple of different angles. One is it's very high in omega-6 fatty acids, which are another one of those inflammation-stimulating fats. One of the other things that people don't realize about peanut butter is that due to the processing of peanuts, they grow a mold on the peanuts. Like when they're farmed and they get transferred to the the processing plants and stuff, they go in these big, like semi-trailers and train cars and stuff, to the point where in the middle of all these piles, mold grows. It grows rampant. And the mold toxins, right? If you buy a jar of peanuts at the store, right, they're all the good-looking peanuts, right? Well, it's all the brown, dingy-looking peanuts that you get one of in a jar of peanuts, and you're like, oh, I don't want to eat that one, and you toss it. Well, all of those are the ones that they make the peanut butter out of, and they're the ones that are the most contaminated with that mold. And the molds secrete a toxin, which is called aflatoxin, which has been shown in just minute amounts to cause liver cancer. In addition, if you take a look at the nutritional label of a jar of peanut butter, like the first thing on there is it's going to say peanuts. The second thing on there is going to say hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils. I've looked at a lot of peanut butter jars, guys. I could probably recite the entire ingredients list for you. And hydrogenated oils are also on your list here. They're terrible for you. That's really where you create a lot of those trans fats, is in the processing, in the hydrogenation of all of those oils. So that causes fluidity in your loss of fluidity in your cell membranes, and it also causes even more inflammation. So the jelly, do we even need to talk about the jelly? Right? That's all sugar. So I briefly talked about omega-6s and omega-3s, and we talk about this a lot in the office, but for those of you who may be here for your first time, omega-6s and omega-3s are the two essential fatty acids that you absolutely have to survive. And your brain is made up of a lot of omega-3s. The insulation of your nerves that allows us to be able to communicate and to function the way we do, it's all made up of the two different kinds of omega-3s, which are EPAs and DHAs. In fact, this is where I was talking about before, about how they've done studies with rats that are raised without an exposure to omega-3 fatty acids, and they find that they all have learning deficiencies, and they all have a terrible memory. And that's because they're literally not getting the building blocks to build their brain, to build those synapses. And this is really where fish oil is really big. Because fish oil is the best and purest form of getting those omega-3 fatty acids in the most concentrated form, right? Because you can get them from a lot of different things, a lot of vegetables and in eating fish, but you'd have to eat a truckload of fish to get the same amount of omega-3s as you would from 2 tablespoons of fish oil. So if you're not taking fish oil, if your kids aren't taking fish oil, look into it. We have some amazing fish oil here that we do sell, and it's great for you. And just to kind of give you an idea, right, the typical American diet, the ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s should be 1 to 2. Okay, that's what it is if you're eating a total Paleolithic caveman type of diet, right? And because we have access to all these other processed foods and McDonald's and anything that comes in a box with one of these labels, the typical American is at 22-1. You can see how far that balance, how far that scale is tipped. So that's why I really impressed upon getting the most efficient and the greatest source of omega-3s that you can. So what can you really do? The best thing you can do is eat raw. And we talked about that in our Eating Raw workshop, a month or so ago. So like I said, we have to think about the future. We're talking about our kids' health. We're talking about your health. There's a book that is called The Paleo Diet. I would really recommend that you guys get it and read it if you are at all interested in eating raw and getting into that kind of lifestyle, because it's really a phenomenon that's absolutely taking over. That people are really understanding that it's getting back to basics, and it's really the best thing for you. Know your common toxins, right? That's why we did this sheet. On the back side of your sheet, we didn't talk about this, but this is a list of all those ingredients that basically are always affiliated with MSG. And in a nutshell, if you can't pronounce it, it's not good for you. Same thing as if it's on a label, it's not good for you. If you can't pronounce it, it's definitely not good for you. So when you're at the grocery store, just peruse this list, and you're probably going to find these things everywhere. What else can you do? Well, the nervous system is one of the most sensitive systems in your body, and it's really what controls and coordinates your digestion. It's what causes your heart to beat. It's what causes you to breathe. It's the difference between you all that are sitting here and the people who aren't with us anymore. It's that we have a functioning nervous system, and we have that innate intelligence that God gave us to keep us alive, and they don't anymore. So we need to provide for it as much as we can. So have you been checked for subluxation? Have you been, do we know how much toxicity your body has already, come in contact with? And the best thing to find out about that, right, is just to get checked. So if you're here tonight, I urge you to talk to one of us docs or one of our staff, and see what we can do to help you and your family get checked. So I thank you for coming out tonight. If you have any questions, certainly we're all here. Try the food. It's awesome. Make sure your kids get to try the food. So again, I thank you for coming out tonight, and thank you.
Use the other stuff.
Be ready to try a few things here.
And it's okay.
See if Grandma got the sheet that has the rest.
Because
this is actually Dr. Brad's daughter, and this is their home juicer. I went and talked to them.
We'll get home and he'll go, Mom, do we have any Yep. He's like, I'm not going to get
It's the same stuff. It's just keeping it warm.
Yeah, take one of those.